Stand them up like this.
ग्रंथरा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
You can do like that, okay? In order. Third canto, fourth canto. Since we have a lot of room in the middle here, could I request y'all please come closer? All of you?
Atit, look here, please. Atit, just for a second, look here. That's all. Hare Krishna.
Get a little closer here. My voice is not good. What is this chanting? Just stop.
Yeah, CD. He has to run around with the children.
Okay, fine, that's fine. So we wanted to say something about Bhagavatam to help you, all of us, understand how special it is amongst all books, and how special it is amongst all holy books, amongst all shastras, even amongst all Vedas, amongst all Puranas. We say Grantaraj, the emperor of all shastras. So our line that Srila Prabhupada is coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who himself took let this be a sign for everyone, okay? Turn their phones off, please. It's a good article I sent to some of you today, I believe, about that. I don't know if anyone saw it. One person's writing a whole book about how to become unhooked from having to always be looking. Someone needs me. How important I must be. Every minute I have to check. If you like, I'll send you the link for that. It's good. It's a whole book. So Lord Chaitanya took diction line of Madhva, Srimad Madhvacharya, 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, all coming from the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, either directly, indirectly. And in the modern times, great acharyas have come to reinvigorate and fine-tune that sampradaya. Madhva, Ramanuja, Vishnu Swami, and Bhargacharya. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu aligned himself, at least officially, with the line of Madhva. We say at least officially because we find that in terms of the teaching, which is codified by Sri Jiva Goswami, one of the 6 main followers of Chaitanya, the Shat Goswami, Vrindavan. He's drawing much from Ramanuja. He's drawing much from Sridhar Swami, the very famous, even at those times, commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam within the line of Vishnu Swami. So then, from one to the other parampara, coming down to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And I think you all know that he spent so much of his time translating Bhagavatam. Time when most of us are sleeping at best. What other people do in the middle of the night these days is at worst. At that time, Prabhupada was up from midnight on, taking so much time and energy, a good percentage of his day, for translating Bhagavatam. And he didn't even feel confident to leave India, to leave Vrindavan in '65, until he had some copies of Bhagavatam. Translated the first canto into 3 volumes, and brought those in a trunk to America aboard the Jaladut. And they were the source of Prabhupada's first income. He would go from door to door, store to store, different ads in newspapers, whatever he could somehow beg some advertising in person, and selling the set for $20, which is a big sum. He came with $7. That wasn't even in American. That was in rupees. So little, he was able to afford some boga to cook some simple prasad for himself. And Krishna guiding him, one thing led to another. He was able to gradually meet some devotees, became his followers. And they went out chanting, and he started to train them up. He started one center in New York, and then from there to San Francisco, Montreal, and eventually all over the world. Meanwhile, Prabhupada was still translating, but several years passed from the time he went to India until more volumes were coming. Finally, they were coming just 1 chapter at a time, 2nd canto. As they were coming published, he was translated, he was publishing in just 1 chapter. And finally, after many years, the Bhagavatams were published in bigger form, not this form. This is whole first canto. It was originally printed in 3 volumes. As I mentioned, Prabhupada did that in India, and he wrote those 3 volumes. But when he started with the help of his disciples, publishing in America, then they also did in 3 volumes, nicely edited. And they started to do the other cantos in a similar format. Second canto came out in 2 volumes, third canto came out in 4, I believe. Fourth canto also came out in 4, like that. And then finally, after many, many years, it was done like this, so everything is in 18 volumes. Otherwise, Prabhupada's idea, in those smaller forms, would have been 60. So my point is that in the midst of Prabhupada establishing so many temples around the world, 100, a few short years, and initiating thousands and thousands of disciples, so many different kinds of preaching, he was always translating for hours in the middle of the night. This was his main life's work, according to the order given by his guru, Sujatha, who asked him to preach in English. So, he already had Bhagavad Gita, which he had translated in India, but somehow the manuscript was stolen, and he had to redo that. So with the help of his disciples in New York, they contacted this one Macmillan company, and which was a big famous publishing house, and they were able to get it translated, but only maybe 1/3 of Prabhupada's purports, no Sanskrit. This little purple volume BBT is printed recently. And then finally, that was maybe 68, 69, 68, I believe. And finally, 72, Macmillan agreed to do the whole thing. Because sales were going brisk. Prabhupada's disciples were selling, you know. And so they did the whole thing in 1972 with the Sanskrit and all Prabhupada's purports and all 50, 60 paintings. And you could still see the picture when it was presented to Prabhupada. He's taking a book like that and smiling. Maybe you've all seen that picture. I remember in 72 when we first got that. And the first thing we did, as soon as we got that Sanskrit, devotees were opening up and studying and memorizing the shlokas. Because we heard before then, Prabhupada was always giving, during his preaching, you know, so many shlokas, but we didn't have that in the book yet. We didn't have so many books. So then anyway, gradually then, the Bhagavatam started coming out, as I'm mentioning, in these formats, which would have been 60 books rather than 18. And some devotees, they have all of these. Maybe some of you read them. So, Gita, as important as it is, Prabhupada knew well that there were so many hundreds of translations of the Gita, because he wanted to give us Bhagavad Gita as it is, without malinterpretations, you would say, taking Krishna out of the picture, putting Krishna front and center, as he really is presenting himself in the Gita. But still, Bhagavad Gita is, well known. So Prabhupada wanted to focus on something that wasn't so well known. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself focused on teaching of the Bhagavatam, which Prabhupada called the graduate studies. Bhagavad Gita is basically an introduction into Krishna Tattva, into his own words. And as Gita leaves off with the verse, Sarvadhamma Parichasha, Krishna is telling Arjuna, everything I've taught you is to bring you to the point of just understanding the one thing. It only has importance if you can understand this one thing, and that is that your life, as my vamsha, my part and parcel, your life, your duty, is to execute what my will is. Like Jesus said, not my will, but thine be done. So Krishna is saying, not your will, but mine be done. Sarvadhamma Parichasha. And then Acharyas have described that Bhagavatam begins on that point. Actually, it's the second shloka, which is saying the same thing. Dharma Parojita Kaitvuttara Paramonamats Sadham. That rejecting all superficial and diverting, cheating types of religion and scriptures. This Bhagavad Purana is simply presenting the highest Dharma, which is, as Krishna is saying, Sarvadhamma Parichasha, give up all their dharmas and just follow this one. Just please me. So Bhagavatam is starting. That's text 2. 18,000 verses later. That's all Bhagavatam is really about. There's cosmology, sociology, so many different types of topics in Bhagavatam, but they're all meant just to highlight pure devotional service. Because to be a Mahapurana must be certain topics to be covered. But that's not the focus of the Bhagavatam. And it makes that clear right in the second verse. The whole purpose is to enunciate this Shuddha Bhakti, Kevala Bhakti, that Krishna is asking for of Arjuna in the Gita. And he's showing so many different examples, so many different histories of great devotees who are coming to that platform as examples for us to follow. So what I want to say is that our understanding of Bhagavatam is coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practically didn't write anything. Sometimes we ascribe Shikshashtakam to him. 8 prayers, whole philosophy summed up there, from beginning to end. But it's not that he personally sat down and wrote them. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami took these, which emanated from Mahaprabhu's mouth, and he put them in the last chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anchalila.